There's nothing more frustrating as a homeowner to not fully understand your home's value. What's even worse is when you're trying to purchase a home and you're going through the home loan process and it's being held up by the appraisal. I've always wanted to dig deep into the appraisal process and understanding home appraisals. This is an episode that home buyers, real estate agents, homeowners, and mortgage professionals will not want to miss. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus. You are tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and a very special guest. She was born in Kentucky but raised in North Miami. She is a fellow UCF Knight. She is a powerful woman in business. She is the CEO of National Appraisal Network, which is an AMC. She is our guest today. She's going to allow us to dive deep into understanding home loan appraisals. She is my new friend, Joni Pilgrim. Joni, welcome to the Loan Officer Podcast.
Thank you, my friend.
Yes, this is going to be exciting. I have been trying to do, or we, because John's included, although today John's behind the cameras. You know you stole John's seat.
I'm sorry, John.
Yeah, this is JC's seat. However, we are at this FAMP conference, right? The Florida Association of Mortgage Professionals is having their annual conference.
Yep.
It's a 3-day, actually a 4-day event if you tack on Saturday CE. 600 plus of us here. You and I are sitting in the exhibit hall. Your company is one of the main sponsors.
Yep.
And one of your key salesmen is my friend Jason.
Yes.
And you don't know this, but John and I for the past 4 years have been wanting to do an entire episode on appraisals. But the problem is he's not an appraiser. I've never been an appraiser, and we haven't had the right SME, subject matter expert, to come on. So I thank you in advance for being our subject matter expert.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so I want to kind of like break this down into 3 different segments. Okay. I want you to speak or answer my questions on behalf of anyone who owns a home.
Okay.
Then we want to talk about the home buyers. And then specifically the real estate agents and the mortgage lenders, whether you're a broker or whether you're work for a bank, work for a credit union, you're a lender in my boat. And let's make sure we use this to entertain if we can, but let's educate. What is an appraisal? Walk us through what appraisers actually do, how they come up with their valuation, and then where is the appraisal industry going? That's kind of where I'm looking to go with this, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
All right, very
let's
cool.
dig in.
So let's start with this, the easiest one, right? Men and women like you and I who own homes. What should we know in general about the appraisal that was done for our home when we purchased it 1 year, 2 years, or 20 years ago, and our home's current value? Like, what would you talk to your best friend from UCF or, you know, your ex-roommate who had questions regarding their home appraisal? What's some general knowledge they should understand?
Well, I think it starts with clearing up a misconception about appraisals being an exact science.
Okay.
You know, appraisals are an opinion of value that's completed by a licensed certified appraiser in a particular market. And appraisers have to have geographic competency, so they know their markets really well. And when you find an appraiser that has really great experience and does a really great job, you can trust the values that are in the appraisal reports that you receive. So, you know, I get a lot of questions about what can I expect when the appraiser comes to my home. You know, the appraiser, there's another misconception that appraisal inspections should take a long time. So that's like one of the biggest questions we get. Well, the appraiser was only here for 10 or 15 minutes, so we don't think that they've done a thorough job on our appraisal. Most of the work is done prior to the appraiser even visiting the property. They're pulling up data and information, public records, MLS. They're researching the property before they get there. When they get to the property, that's when they do their inspection. And, you know, appraisers that have been in the industry and doing this for a long time, it doesn't take them a long time to do the inspection on your average size home. So, you know, it's make sure that you are allowed to speak to the appraiser. That's another misconception. You know, if you have sales that you want the appraiser to look at, you know, you can provide those sales right to the appraiser. They can consider them if they want to, but again, they've done a lot of the research up front. You can talk to the appraiser about upgrades to your home that you've recently done, made them aware of things that are happening within your home, so that they can make sure that they value that. So I think it starts with clearing up the misconceptions in a big way.
All right. So if I'm already a homeowner and my home was appraised 5 years ago when I bought it, is it safe to say I can use that appraisal to line my bird cage? I can use it to start my
Kindling?
Kindling for my fire, right? Because I mean, it's pretty safe to assume that once I own a home, the appraisal that I used to purchase the home, it was good for 90 or 180 days, but after that, it's old news.
It's old news. Yeah,
Okay.
The market changes, so you want to get a value for what the market represents currently.
Now, if I'm a homeowner, can you think of a reason why a homeowner would need to get an updated appraisal if they're not looking to sell and they're not looking to obtain a new home loan, like through a refinance? Are there reasons why a homeowner would reach out to a company like yours to order an appraisal? And I ask you because honestly, I can't think of one myself.
Yeah,
but
I mean, there's life issues that happen. Maybe
Divorce?
there's divorce
Okay.
or probate or something like that,
Okay.
where you're needing to get the valuation of a home. Maybe they're considering. A lot of people just want to kind of check the temp on the market and say, all right, I might not be ready today, but maybe this time next month I'll put the house on the market. If the value comes back and it looks like it's favorable, then that could be a reason that they would order an
perfect.
appraisal as
So
well.
there we go. There's three reasons why top three reasons.
Sure.
Almost like if we're doing like an Instagram reel, or if you're doing some of your TikTok dances.
Yeah.
Here are three reasons why you may need an appraisal, even if you're not looking to buy or sell a home.
Yeah.
Number one, divorce. Number two, probate. What's
Yeah.
probate? Typically, we inherited a home through death.
Yeah.
Right? Grandma died, left you the house, but she didn't leave it to you. It was you and your 5 cousins, and you're fighting over the home. You're trying to figure out what the home is worth. Get an appraisal. Or the third would be you want to be super detailed. You're planning for the future, and you want a professional opinion on what your home is worth. But I'm going to give you a layup here.
Okay.
But Joni, why couldn't I just go to Zillow and have Zillow tell me what my home is worth?
I suppose you could, but
Okay.
you're not going to be using that to make your decision off of. Zillow is taking into a lot of consideration public record data. It's a lot of data that's being compiled to give a zestimate.
Yeah.
That's what they call it, or a Z estimate. I've heard it a few different ways, but the appraiser is giving their professional opinion and value and taking all of the condition of the home into consideration, the quality, bed, bath count, amenity, all of those things
Yeah.
are being taken into consideration
Yeah,
with that value. You
Zillow
want that
doesn't-
value.
Zillow doesn't live
Yeah.
in your 2 or 3 county area. Zillow isn't showing up and walking your property. Right? So
Yeah.
assessment, it's a great rule of thumb.
Sure.
Give or take 20, 30 grand one direction or the other. That's a big swing.
That's a big
right?
swing.
Like I always joke, if I lent you $200 or $300 and you never paid me back, I'd probably still hang out with you and be your friend, but I wouldn't lend you money ever again.
Right.
If I loaned you $20,000 or $30,000 and you didn't repay me, I'm calling the cops. So like $20,000 and $30,000, if we're talking about his estimate, that's a lot of money.
Big deal.
Yeah, like that's something that I can't necessarily get wrong unless I'm truly just needing a rough estimate.
Yeah.
So cool. We check that box. If you're a current homeowner, not looking to do a refinance, not looking to sell your home anytime soon, those are kind of the 3 reasons why you would look to have an appraisal ordered.
Sure.
Now, I will tell you, because it kind of transitioned and I don't want to waste all of our time together, maybe jumping to this. If you are looking to refinance your home, more than likely your lender is going to require that you get an updated appraisal, and more than likely you're going to want an updated appraisal because so much of lending is based on your loan to value.
Sure.
And your home, more than likely, unless you were living in a very remote place of the world that I'm not aware of, and by the world I mean the United States of America, that I'm not aware of, more than likely your home has gone up in value over the past 3, 5, and even 7 years. So you'll want a new appraisal because loan to value is a determining factor. That new appraisal will have you get it. But something people should know, and I want to get Joni's take on this, we're starting to see a lot of what we call appraisal waivers, or even the utilization of technology in these refinance transactions, where it's called an automated valuation model, AVM. Is that what the M stands for, model?
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
What's your take on that? Like as CEO of a National Appraisal Network, right? Like you are a appraisal management company. That means, by the way, an appraisal management company is who your lender more than likely is going to be ordering the appraisal through, because after the financial collapse, there are a lot of regulations put into place for the right reasons to
Yep.
protect the consumer. And the regulators no longer want to allow a bank or a lender or a mortgage broker to communicate directly to a certain appraiser who may or may not be their best friend, who may or may not, with a wink, nod, handshake, and a bottle of whiskey, be able to make sure they get the right value. So there's a stopgap,
Sure.
right? And that's called an AMC. And Joni owns, founded, runs an AMC, and a large AMC, a nationwide AMC.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
A national AMC. So nonetheless, just a little sidebar for those that are wondering, like, what is an AMC? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Please know that when you need an appraisal order because you're buying or financing, by the way, it'll be done by your lender. It won't be done by you.
That's it.
It'll be done by your lender and more than likely through an AMC. That's why Joni's on. All right.
But the consumer will get a copy, so not to worry.
The consumer will get a copy because you're paying for that.
That's right.
Like, you are paying for that. You own that.
You will get a copy.
All right. So, but what are your thoughts on this utilization of technology, whether it's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac giving appraisal waivers? Have you seen that at all negatively impact your industry, the usage of appraisal waivers in general?
I think a lot of it has to do with, again, I'm going to go back to what we talked about in the first question. It's clearing up the misconceptions, right? So let's use data if we have data available. We have an appraiser shortage, right? I think there's about a little less than 40,000 active appraisers in the country. And we want to avoid what happened in the COVID era when the Fed stepped in and slashed the rates and volume went through the roof. We ended up with super long turn times because of appraiser capacity. And I think what's happening is the industry is taking a look and saying, hey, we've got to utilize the data. What if the rates come back down again? You know, we're all kind of like watching,
We're hoping,
right?
crossing our fingers.
The volume is going to come back and we will get buried by the volume and have extended turn times again because we're not utilizing the data at our fingertips and utilizing inspection-based waivers. So I am a fan when it works well. I think that if the lenders have enough data to or the GSEs have enough data to allow for these, absolutely use them. It saves the consumer money on the back end as well. And that's what we're all really here for, is for protecting the consumer and making sure they get fair access to lending and housing, right? So I think that there's kind of a play there as well, because sometimes the inspection-based waivers turn into an appraisal, right? Sometimes the lender goes, you know what, we actually want to have an appraisal instead of just looking at the data. We want somebody out at the property. So it just really depends on what the data tells as far as the story goes.
Cool. So for our home buyers and homeowners tuning in, I'm going to translate.
Okay.
Which reminds me, one of my favorite movies is The Big Short, and the book's even better. But I loved from an artistic standpoint where, you know, they would have someone geek out the way that you and I can geek out talking appraisals, but then it would like flip to Selena Gomez or Margot Robbie, and they would translate it, right? And it's usually Margot Robbie in a bubble bath drinking champagne, or it's Selena Gomez laying out on the beach. She's like,
Right.
okay, let me tell you what a collateralized debt obligation is. And she lays it out. So what I want to stop and say, although I am nothing like Selena or Margot, I'm the pasty pale bald headed dude that's going to try to break this down and translate it for you. Okay. There are ways for you to purchase real estate and potentially not need an appraisal. It
Yep.
doesn't mean that you won't elect as a consumer to want an appraisal, which I would want one.
For sure.
But if your file is one in which is maybe you're a high FICO score, you're putting decent money down, maybe 20, 30%, and Fannie and Freddie, the GSEs we call them, but that is the, you know, government regulatory body that creates a liquidity facility that lets us do 15, 20, and 30-year fixed mortgages in the United States. If they have enough data on that property, they may give your lender or your bank a property inspection waiver, basically saying, hey, we don't need an appraisal.
Right.
This file quality is strong enough. We have enough data on that property, and you're putting enough money down that we feel like we don't have to take the extra step.
Right.
That could save you, the consumer, $500 or $600. And my concern for Joni and her profession is, but that's taking money out of your pocket. And then you answered it back to me. You're like, hey, look, do you not remember how crazy it was in 2020 and 2021? We had more orders than we did actual physical appraisers willing to do the orders. That prices doubled and tripled, okay? And then what used to take 5 or 7 days turned into 25 or 27 days.
For sure.
So you're basically saying, nah, right now we kind of welcome the utilization of technology, which is needed because we don't want to be in a position where we don't have enough licensed appraisers to actually fulfill the orders.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
All right. How about this question? This is going to be a geek out question. Any concern that technology will replace the need for appraisers?
That's the hot question right now, and we get that a lot from our appraisers. So we work with about 14,000 appraisers across
just
the country.
14,000. Okay.
Just 14,000.
Okay.
And we talk to them pretty regularly. And, I think when the discussion of technology and especially AI and even like the appraisal modernization piece where you've got the property data collector out at the property instead of the appraiser, and then you merging the appraiser into the whole process by completing a report. I think there was fear of the unknown. So a little pushback on where technology is taking the appraisal industry from the appraisers, as you can expect, right? It's their industry, it's their field. They've spent their lives building these amazing companies and businesses as appraisers out there. But I think what we're finding is that appraisers are starting to embrace this new way of doing business. And I think we're all understanding that technology and the evolution of the mortgage industry, especially in the appraisal field, is not going anywhere. It's going to continue to evolve. We're going to continue to have to adapt. And I think as soon as you embrace technology and AI into your business and you figure out how it really helps you transform it for the better, you win. If you don't embrace it, you're going to get left behind. So I don't think that there's any reason to fear it. I think you embrace it and you figure out how to work it into your business and be successful with it.
Love it. So here's a quick one hitter. Yes or no, would you promote becoming an appraiser as a career path? Let's say you're talking to a 20-year-old, a 22-year-old, you're back at UCF, you're with the KDs and you're giving back to your sisterhood.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you say, hey, some of you who love data, who don't want to sit behind a desk 24/7, you may enjoy a career as an appraiser. Is that advice you would give today?
100% yes. And especially because the younger generation already embraces technology. So they will be wildly successful in the appraisal industry because it's coming and it's going to continue to evolve and it's going to continue to make the process of appraisals more efficient. It's going to provide better quality appraisals to the lenders at the end of the day. They're going to be able to make better lending decisions because we have become more efficient as a profession. And I think that's what this younger generation kind of expects when they get into that work field.
Yeah. Well, and I asked that question because I'm listening and I lived through it with you. As a lender, I lived through, I call it the appraisal nightmare. And it's like, y'all, like if you think there's a teacher shortage or there's a nursing shortage, appraisers make more money than teachers and nurses, and there's a shortage there too. And here's what's crazy that many people don't know. You and I know this. I'm gonna share it with the people. It requires a 4-year degree. Yeah. Becoming a mortgage loan originator does not require it. Becoming a real estate agent does not require it. But to become an appraiser, you need a 4-year degree.
Yeah, there's a lot of initiatives happening right now to ease the barrier of entry into the appraisal profession.
Yeah, and I would hope so.
So looking forward to that all coming to fruition and getting some more appraisers into the marketplace so that we can continue to keep the mortgage market moving.
All right, so here's another quick hit. Last time I called it a one-hitter. So I was like, oh, boom, quick. But we didn't cover this. We should have covered it when we kicked the show off. Just on a very high level, 90 seconds or less, how would you explain to someone who's not in the industry, how is their home appraised? Like, how is it appraised? What is it that appraisers are trained to go do to come up with their professional assessment of the home's value?
Yeah, so they have to pull the public records on the property, look at all of the data, find comparable sales that have sold recently that are like the home, the subject property, we call it.
So a 3-2, you're looking for other 3-2s that have sold in a certain time frame.
Yeah, as similar as you can get. And then the appraiser will make adjustments based off of, if one comparable is larger in square footage, for example, or use simple terms, if there's a pool amenity versus one not having. So they'll make adjustments for it. And then they go out and they do the actual inspection to see if there's, what the condition and the quality of the property is and make their adjustments through that. In comparison to the comparables that have recently sold, and they'll come up with an opinion of value after everything's reconciled, and that's what you've got at the end of the day is the value from a professional appraiser who lives and works in that market and has for probably quite some time, and is very knowledgeable and can understand this neighborhood over here versus this town over here versus, there's different streets that cut through that subdivide appraisal markets. So having somebody with that geographic competency and that experience is critical.
What's one of the misconceptions about appraisals or appraisers that really gets under your skin? I'm going to give you mine. I'll let you think about it.
Okay.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Here's mine, y'all. An appraiser is not an inspector. An appraiser is not an inspector. If
That's
you want
true.
your home inspected,
Yeah.
you have to spend the extra $400, $600, or $800, and that person's job is to go out and tell you everything that's wrong with the house.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is their job. You're paying them to do that.
Right.
Just because your inspector said X, Y, and Z is wrong with the house, please don't think it's a bad house or a house not worth buying.
Right.
You may choose not to buy the house, but please know that's their job. And then don't get mad and call your lender, i.e. me, being like, well, how come the appraiser didn't notate this? So one of my beefs, and I'm not an appraiser, never have been, probably never will be, is just this. Please know an appraiser is not a home inspector. But what would yours be?
I think, I think consumers get a false kind of representation based off of how long it takes them to do the inspection. Like the appraiser didn't do their job, or they're not listening to me, or they're not very talkative. They base the interaction with the appraiser on how they feel about the outcome of the appraisal. And it's like, well, this person's here to do a job. They're not necessarily the customer service team. They're there to do the home appraisal. So I think, and realtors kind of have the same viewpoint as well. They want the appraiser to be like bubbly and communicative and like give them all this feedback about the house, and the appraiser really just wants to get in and out, get the inspection done, get the facts about the property so that they can create a great appraisal.
Okay, so you mentioned realtors.
Yeah.
Okay, give me 3 quick tips that you would teach if you're standing in front of a group of realtors and you're like, hey, y'all, I don't have much time, but here's 3 things I wish you all knew better about either appraisals or the appraisal process.
I would say, getting the house prepared for the appraisal, making
Okay.
sure that it's ready to go. All the doors have to be unlocked. If we have to get into the attic space, make sure that that's available. If there's
Make sure utilities are turned on so we can run
everything's
the
turned
water.
on. Yeah, absolutely. Get the house prepared so that we don't have to come back out to the property and do a completion.
Cool.
Step
1, realtors.
Step 1.
Make sure the home is appraisal ready. Okay.
Don't talk about value with the appraiser. They'll try to influence value while they're at the inspection.
So don't influence value, but can I share the comps I've already pulled?
You can share the comps.
Okay.
Yep. But don't, hey, I need this to come in at $300,000.
Wink, wink, nod, nod.
This is appraiser independence at its finest, and we need to make sure that the appraiser feels comfortable with completing the report without any, undue influence. And the third thing would be maybe understanding turn times in different markets. Some markets require longer turn times if it's in a more rural or remote location, versus your more urban or suburban areas where we've got more appraisers that can take on more work. So these things don't happen overnight. So we want to make sure that we're delivering a quality appraisal. It's not just about the speed, it's about the quality of the report that we're delivering at the end of the day.
And I would say the same thing about unique properties.
Unique
Right?
properties.
If you have a unique property, just like if you're in a rural area, then give some flexibility with your expectations of timeframes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Answer this for me. Okay. I'm going to try to take a deep breath, take a step back, and I'm going to relax because I could potentially hop out of my seat.
It's going to get a little
and
crazy.
I'm going to start preaching like I like to do. Can you please walk all of us through the differences between an FHA appraisal and a conventional appraisal?
FHA appraisal is looking for things like safety, structural soundness of the property, like foundation cracks and, missing handrails where there's stairs and broken windows, anything that would impact the safety of the person inhabiting the home. So there's a much more thorough inspection involved with an FHA appraisal, and the appraisers have to be specially certified to do FHA appraisals. Where a conventional appraisal, they're not looking at those things as in depth. So you're going to have more inspection, more detail on the property in an FHA appraisal than you would on the conventional.
Wow. I was not expecting that answer.
What were you expecting?
I'm going to give you my answer.
Okay.
Nothing. Nothing. One of the biggest farces in our industry, in my opinion.
Okay.
I'm going to pull from Colin Powell.
Okay.
In my humble experience.
Gotcha.
So he wouldn't say in my humble opinion. He said in my humble experience. Too many real estate agents across the United States of America, and this has been passed down like urban legend.
Mm-hmm.
Because, by the way, there was a time. You and I were still in college, but there was a time when an FHA appraisal actually required like a 21-point inspection.
Okay.
And then that went away like sometime around like 02, 03, 04. Okay, as a lender, I'm like, y'all, FHA appraisals, they're going to require all 4 sides of the home being pictured and not 3.
Right.
Although most appraisers, regardless, will do all 4. They're going to require pictures of the attic, which I don't think conventional does. But other than that, as a lender, I've had plenty of conventional appraisals come back, and the appraiser notated that the sidewalk leading up to the front door had a 6-inch differential between one slab and the other because an oak tree root was running through it, and wanted that fixed because he was like, that's a safety issue. I've had plenty of conventional appraisals that had exposed wiring because someone took a ceiling fan home with them and didn't like cap it,
Right.
and that had to be replaced.
Right.
So my experience has always been,
They're doing an FHA inspection regardless.
well, it's like, y'all, it's not that different. And the number of questions that a realtor say, do you think this will pass FHA? I go, I think it'll pass FHA just like I think it'll pass conventional. Meaning, I think sometimes they overthink it, and because of that, not enough FHA borrowers are being looked at because they're afraid of the appraisal. So that was always my take, but I'm not the CEO of
No,
of
I
Man,
think that's an interesting approach for sure.
Because I do know for a fact FHA appraisals used to be really intense. And I have found that that's not the case anymore, but the reputation is one in which.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I was just curious.
I like it.
All right. I loved how you did the top 3 for realtors. Now let's do the top 3 for lenders.
Okay.
I'm a mortgage broker. I'm newly licensed, or hell, I'm seasoned 20 years in the business. What are like the top 3 things that you want lenders to know about either appraisers, appraisals, or the appraisal process?
I think fees and turn times are critical to get right up front, right? You want to pay appraisers well. You want to pay top quality appraisals. And again, you want to get appraisals back within a good time frame, but know that quality is the most important thing.
You get what you pay for.
You
Cool.
get what you pay
Check.
for. Absolutely.
Heard.
I think that as the AMC, we're here to communicate on behalf of the lender and the appraiser. So we are, we want to keep everybody compliant and making sure that we're abiding by appraiser independence, and that, all of the communication is filtered and we're speaking to the appraiser.
So don't communicate directly with the appraiser. Check.
You can, but you can
Uncheck. Hold on, eraser.
Yeah. You can talk to the appraiser. It just creates a mess because the appraiser wants to hear from the AMC. They want to hear from us as their clients. So,
So, but like no picking
that.
up the phone and saying, "Hey, bro, I really need 425."
Please don't do that.
Okay, don't do that. Okay, that's a what not to do.
That's a what not to do.
What not to do. Okay,
that's an error violation.
That's so 2006.
Yeah, please. And that's. I feel like we've been doing we're celebrating 20 years.
But
next month, everybody
appraisal disputes.
Appraisal disputes. That's actually changing at the end of this month as
no
well.
Way. Yeah, so there's changes. Is that coming from the regulatory bodies or?
GSEs have instituted a policy update to how reconsideration of value is being managed and putting more onus on the lender and the appraiser. Actually, the appraisers have to address ROVs. They have to address them in the appraisal. They can't just say, I don't want to deal with it and walk away.
ROV, reason of value?
Reconsideration of value. I'm sorry.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
So disputes, another word for dispute.
Okay.
And lenders have to really look at the disputes from the consumer side. The consumers can initiate the disputes and look at the consumer's dispute and just make sure that it's valid. What are we disputing about the appraisal? If we're submitting comparable sales for the appraiser to consider, are they valid comparables, or are they 6,000 square feet difference? You know what I mean? So really having a subject matter expert within the lender's office, pretty much, their senior underwriter, scrubbing these disputes to make sure that they're valid before submitting them, and the appraiser having to acknowledge them and respond to them in a meaningful way so that we can keep the dialogue open. Appraisers are human. They make mistakes, so having a good policy that's repeatable and defendable, and ensuring that we're delivering good quality appraisals at the end of the day is always a positive. So
there you go. That's a knowledge of nugget. Wow, you can tell it's late in the day. That is a nugget knowledge.
Nugget of knowledge.
Nugget of knowledge.
Nugget
That's
of
what I was trying to
knowledge.
say.
Yes, gotcha.
That is a nugget of knowledge that I think not everyone fully understands, that you can dispute your appraisal.
Yes.
If you felt like that value came in too low, or I don't know, maybe you're a seller, it came in too high, whatever the case may be.
Or the appraiser may have reported data incorrectly or missed something.
Yeah,
these things happen.
That it is possible to dispute it. Do you have a rule of thumb or some data that just suggests what's the likelihood of me being able to successfully dispute an appraisal? Like, is it 1 in 4 times typically on average appraisals and the valuation gets changed? Is it 1 in 2? Is it 3 in 4? What do you see doing what you do for a living as it pertains to successfully disputing appraisals?
Yeah, I think we see about 30% of the time the value will change.
There you go. And I think that's good to know.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not like I'm going to dispute it, I'm going to get my way. No, you're not. Right?
No.
You're going to get your way 30% of the time, because that's assuming there was data missed or data miscalculated or data that was entered incorrectly.
Absolutely.
Or maybe just something was overlooked because God forbid we're human,
Right.
God forbid we're human.
I think that's something I would like the realtors and lenders to understand, is that appraisers are human, and it's an opinion of value. There is no exact science. If you send 3 appraisers out to one property, they're all going to come back with a different value, give or take.
Give or take. It's a range.
It is.
Well, and at the end of the day, I mean, if we want to go back to junior year at UCF, College of Business, and we're learning the true value of something. I mean, is the true value not what someone's willing to pay?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day,
the market value, right?
Is your necklace worth $200 or $20,000?
Right.
Well, it depends on how much I'm willing to pay you for it.
That's right.
At which point, that's what it could be worth.
So true.
Joni, this has been fantastic. If people want to follow you, they want to connect with you or learn more about your company, right? Because her company is an appraisal management company. If you need an appraisal ordered, you're going to want to reach out to Nan.
Yes.
Whether you are a realtor, you can reach out to Nan. Whether you're a homeowner, because you're going through one of those life events that requires an appraisal, or whether you're a mortgage broker or you run your own independent mortgage bank and you're looking for a really good AMC, you can look Joni's way. How do people find you? What are your handles? What's your contact info?
nan-amc.com.
NAN-AMC.com.
Yep, that's our website. Everything is on our website. It's fully loaded. It's got all the bells and whistles. We even have our turn times posted on there, all of our contact information for our entire sales team, our leadership team. You can find me on there. My email address is jpilgrim@nan-amc.com. We're on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. My marketing team is here. You can't miss us. We're everywhere.
Awesome. Love it. She's Joni Pilgrim. I'm Dustin Owen. You've just tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast. That's all the time we have for you today, but we do look forward to catching you on the next episode. Peace.
Thank you.